Hi, this is Bill Monroe of Project Portfolio Excellence Incorporated, and this is part 2 of the How Quality Software Happens series. In this video we're going to talk about the Project Trinity. Now we start off every presentation with a reminder that in Project Portfolio Excellence, the number one truth is that the causes of project failure are easy to diagnose and simple to understand. It's by using tools such as the Project Triad and the Project Trinity that we can get to the point where we can start to recognize what those causes of project failure are, and even get to the point eventually where we'll be able to weed out projects that have little chance for success because they display some of those characteristics that we know lead to project failure. Something else that I point out in every presentation is the need for this new approach, the need for Project Portfolio Excellence. The graph that's shown here, which is a compilation of data from the Standish Group from their research, shows that over the last 8 to 10 years, even though there's been an increased emphasis on formal project management techniques and methodology, our rate of success with projects has actually decreased slightly, and our rate of project failure has gone up by 60%. Now in part 1, when we talked about the Project Triad, we were talking about the 3 groups in the company that have to collaborate together effectively in order to be successful with projects. The Project Trinity, on the other hand, is made up of the 3 attributes that have to be present for a project to be successful. These attributes are skill, will, and capacity. And to emphasize how important these 3 attributes are, truth number 40 in Project Portfolio Excellence states that it doesn't matter how badly you want it or how desperately you need it if you don't have the skill, the will, and the capacity to achieve it. Now I want to give you a little exercise here that I think will help to reinforce this idea of how important skill, will, and capacity are, and how they have to be all present and in balance in order for projects to succeed. On the right side of the screen you see the Project Trinity with the 3 attributes, skill, will, and capacity. On the left side of the screen there's a sentence structure with 3 variables. Now I want you to plug in the 3 attributes of the Trinity into that sentence in any order that you want to, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about. For example, it doesn't matter how much skill and will you have if you don't have enough capacity to do what needs to be done to succeed with the project. Or try this. It doesn't matter how much will and capacity you have if you don't have enough skill to do what needs to be done to succeed with the project. I think you see what I'm talking about here, and you can put them in any order that you want to, and they will reinforce the same point that all 3 attributes have to be present and in the proper balance in order to succeed with your project. So now we're going to start talking about the 3 attributes of the Project Trinity. And the first attribute we'll talk about is skill. Now to say that we need the proper skills in order to succeed with projects seems pretty obvious, but the skills we're talking about are a little bit different than what we normally think of in most of the positions for the company. For example, the number 1 skill that we emphasize in Project Portfolio Excellence is the skill of listening. If you'll remember, in the presentation on the Project Triad, we talked about how each of the 3 groups in the Triad has exclusive information that the other 2 groups don't have, and it's only when we can combine this information effectively that we can get the best overall big picture view of the project and what we're trying to accomplish. Analyzing. Many of our projects fail because we don't put in enough effort and time to building a good plan and doing a proper analysis of what it is we're trying to accomplish. If we don't have a good plan, then we can easily go off in the wrong direction and not really know it because we don't really know what we're trying to do. And when it comes to collaboration, we cannot emphasize strongly enough how critical good collaboration is between the 3 groups of the Project Triad. And when we talk about execution, there we get into the realm of what we normally consider the skills that people need. For example, programmers need to be able to program. Business professionals need to be able to write specifications and conduct user acceptance testing, things like that. And the last entry on the list here, bias for quality. Now I'm not sure if that's a personality trait or if it's a skill to be learned, but I do know that it's important because a lot of times we spend a lot of money time, energy to implement a project only to find out that it's not returning the kind of benefits that we expected because of poor quality. Once poor quality gets into production, it's difficult to track down and to alleviate because usually we've already moved on to other projects. The next attribute that we're going to discuss is will. Now, this is something that we often take for granted, but we really shouldn't, as you'll see on this next slide. So what do we mean when we talk about will as an attribute for project success? Well, the first one I list here is understanding current and future processes. When we undertake a new project, our intent is to change the way we do daily work. We need to understand the way we currently do our work and the way we want to do our work in the future so we can build the bridge between the way we do it today and the way we want to do it tomorrow. We need to put in enough time and energy to truly understand those processes. The second and third entries on the list are respect capacity requirements and respect constraints. Every company has a limit in terms of its capacity, and if you exceed that limit, you're going to get work of poor quality. Every project you undertake has constraints, and if you ignore those constraints, you're going to end up with work of poor quality. We have to have the will to respect the capacity of how much we can accomplish and the constraints that stand in the way of our success. The fourth entry on the list is achieve mutual understanding, and this requires the listening and collaboration skills that we talked about earlier. In today's business environment, where it seems like everyone's running as fast as they can just to get their daily work done, it's difficult sometimes for us to take the time to sit down and discuss exactly what it is we're trying to accomplish. But if we don't take the time to do this, there's a good chance that we will not end up with a result that everyone's happy with. The last entry on the list is support future process needs. Every time that we implement a project, we're changing some aspect about the way the daily work is performed. We depend on the people that perform those processes to change the way they do their daily work. If they choose not to do that, if they continue to do their work the way they always have, then we're not likely to see the benefits that we expected from the project that we put so much time and effort into executing. The attribute that's most often overlooked is capacity. A lot of the time we act as if our capacity is infinite, but it really isn't. And what you're going to see on this next slide is that each of the three groups of the Project Triad has capacity limitations. If you choose to ignore those capacity limitations, and if any of the three groups doesn't have the time to fulfill their responsibilities on the project, your probability for project failure increases. When we talk about capacity, more often than not, we think in terms of the number of programmers that we have available. And if we don't have enough programmers, we've also come to believe that we can just go out and rent some from one of the many companies that are more than happy to send in bodies to fill the empty seats. But the biggest constraint that we face when it comes to capacity is the capacity of business professionals to analyze and design processes, to gather requirements, and to create specifications. This ties back to our theme of collaboration between business and technology professionals. If business professionals don't have the time to collaborate effectively with technology professionals and really define in detail what we want our programs to do, we can't expect technology professionals to fill in those gaps on their own. It's important that we keep in mind from now on that all three of the groups of the Project Triad have capacity limitations, and they all have responsibilities that have to be fulfilled in order for the project to succeed. I want to close out by saying that creating quality software is not easy, but it is fairly straightforward. There are rules, and if you break the rules, your probability for failure will increase. I also want to say that when a project fails, it's always a process problem. It's not a people problem. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. If you have any questions about the material that's been presented here, you can send them via email or phone. You can also call to set up a free consultation where we'll discuss your goals and needs and whether Project Portfolio Excellence can help you get better results with your enterprise software and software-related projects. If you just like some general information, you can visit the website at www.projectportfolioexcellence.com. Thank you.